The mysteries of Antarctica, there's only one thing people need to understand and understand clearly. One, I spent 366 days in Antarctica, and I can prove that. Nobody can deny that reality. So I'm coming from a sense of understanding, folks. Know this as a fact. People say that if people knew something, they would say something. I'm saying something because I know this. I've provided documentation. You can go to deciphering.tv. In the archive section, go to DOM document. This is real. At the South Pole Station in Antarctica since 2010, when they went from construction to operations and maintenance on the ice cube neutrino detector. That detector is not passively listening exclusively. It transmits. It transmits powerfully. It is debatably the world's largest phased array transmitter. It is a directed energy weapons system that is actively working against you and everyone on this planet without pause and hesitation currently. You can study the work of Robert Duncan, the DARPA scientist who worked on such technologies as mind control and Project Satan, acronym SATAN. These are real technologies on this planet right now that no one is paying attention to because they are being very well distracted by operations like COINTELPRO to make sure that they pay attention to other things. It's smoke and mirrors and a shell game. There's very real things that we can address on this planet right now that are very real threats, while factions try to take the conversation and bring it to fake, fanciful things that distract us, like flat Earth, which is bogus. It's a psyop. I've been to the South Pole Station. I've been there a year. I know how the sun operates. The planet's round, folks. Get over it. The CIA spent a lot of money to distract you. What used to be a reasonable conspiracy theorist conversation where people were discussing facts has now become all fanciful. I'm here to let you know there's a real threat right now at the South Pole Station. Directed energy weapons are real. You can study the work of Dr. James Giordano. The brain is the battlefield of the future, and we're losing. The technology has been around for decades because this technology is so manifold that they utilize the AI to pay attention to people in mass. A technology so powerful that they can assign an AI to each individual to assess your thoughts, to record them, and then manipulate them back. This is V2K, so that within your own head, you can have intrusive thoughts. You know, when you normally have a decision to make, you know, Sean, you have this, you know, like a fork in the road, so to say, that presents itself. You know, do I go left? Do I go right? And then this conversation presents itself in your head, and you have to figure out what you're going to do. Well, the technology exists now that they can add participants to the conversation, intrusive thoughts, and they can now start to lead, so to say, when you have a choice to make. And it's not really mind control per se at the beginning, as it is a manipulation until they start to dial a person in. And it becomes more controlling when they become better at this level of manipulation. You have a thought, they read it, they counter thought, and then they see the outcome of the counter thought. And it's like a tennis match. And they parlay back and forth, and they just, you know, and they eventually get folks dialed in. And that's what the AI does, is they'll sick an algorithm on someone, and they'll say, algorithm 12469, we're going to assign to citizen number 242. And it's going to attack that person, and it's going to use a study program on them. Mind control, straight up mind control. We've been suffering it for decades now. We're already suffering it. I do not believe that for the last 2 years that the entirety of the planet unanimously decided it wanted to wear masks. I don't believe that. I think that was technologically applied. It makes more sense. The work of Robert Duncan, James Giordano, as of recently targeted individual Len Baer has come out and been speaking publicly. This is exactly the avenue that we're going in, is that people need to understand this is a reality. It is no longer crazy people hearing voices. This is real. The Department of Defense, the CIA, the FBI have provided avenues for their employees to run up the chain of command that they have been negatively impacted by directed energy weapons and have Havana syndrome-like symptoms. Not because this is fake, because they now have to take care of their employees as federal agents who now are suffering the symptoms. They're taking care of them because it's real. Those are the facts. These weapons exist, and I found one at the South Pole Station in Antarctica. The second one at the South Pole Station is the ELF system, which most folks were under the impression that it was off, as in de-energized. It is miles worth of antenna that is embedded within the ice that they most certainly never removed. They just said they turned it off. In my role doing operations and maintenance at the South Pole Station, I discovered one day when I was trying to work on some other equipment, when I went to a panel and had to isolate the breakers as, you know, standard operating procedures. I wanted to make sure this is this and this is that. And I found a breaker in an energized position that was labeled to be off. So this was a problem for me. I had to confirm this discrepancy. In the process of confirming the discrepancy, I learned that the ELF system that we were all told was off was in fact energized, operational, and functioning. It can influence from South Pole Station directly to every person on this planet. That's the level of technology contemporarily now. People need to understand that. It's a horror show. I'm not bearing good news. This is not good news. They do not need your cell phone. The idle threat of 5G someday being able to mind control you is in and of itself a program to make you be concerned about the threat being in the future while you're actively suffering something way worse than 5G is. I believe the technology at South Pole Station, Gakona, Alaska, and every other HARP-type facility on the planet is actively engaged in directed energy weapons warfare to find each other and destroy each other. That level of warfare is going on actively while we, the civilians of this planet, are suffering. There is walking wounded going on right now by the definition of Havana syndrome. Used to be that just the soldiers would get hit and have bullet holes and lost limbs. Well, our nation states are no longer playing politely and allowing the weapons of war to be waged at the front lines by soldiers. We, the people of this planet, are now at the front lines, and the battlefield is the mind, and we're losing. Know thyself. This is the battle cry since antiquity. This new technological threat is a bastardization of techniques of old. Way back when, somebody simply titled a magician would have the technique, the ability to place a thought in your head. That technique has now been bastardized and made into a technology, and that's what's going on. So because we no longer know thyself, these intrusive thoughts have a practical function to guide you in a direction that wasn't necessarily what you intended. So each of us needs to learn to know thyself in a better way and be tighter with that than you ever considered, because there are so many things in the world around us that are meant to confuse us from knowing who we truly are. What you will notice in the world around you as things are transitioning is those with the strongest sense of ego. And I don't mean pride. I mean in a sense of self will be least impacted by the technology. And that is the perfect example because these people know thyself. Pay attention to who these people are and follow their example. Do not be afraid to have pride in yourself insofar as knowing yourself. Be yourself. Don't let the AI try to make you homogenous. If you can please go to deciphering.tv. That's my website where I try to get this information out there. There's an archive section. I have documentation to provide. It's downloadable. You can reference it and share this information, please, because this is the truth. These are the facts.